Hello, my name is Chris, and today we're going to show you how to do some engraving in Mastercam 2023. So the first thing we'll need to do is create some geometry. So from our wireframe tab, we'll select rectangle. We select our first corner that we want to start with. Just drag anywhere in the direction that you want to go and left click. We'll now set our size over here. So we want our width to be 12 inches. We want our height to be -3 inches because we want it to be in the -y direction. That creates our rectangle, so we can do a fit. Now you see. So if you wanted to, you could click this button to anchor to center, and that would anchor the center of your rectangle. For our case, we don't want to do that, so make sure this button is unchecked. Hit the green check mark for OK. So now we have our rectangle. So now we need to create some text. So from the wireframe tab again, we'll go to create letters. We need to select a style, so we pick our dialog box here. We want Myriad Pro. Select that from your drop-down list. Click OK. Inside of our letters box, we want to have our text. Height we want to be 1 inch. And that's all we need for that. We can select anywhere we want to anchor this on the screen. It's going to anchor it from the lower left-hand corner. We need to move this anyway, so it doesn't really matter where we stick it for the moment. So just put it wherever you'd like. Hit the green check for OK. So now we want to center our text inside of our stock, which is the rectangle we made earlier. So I prefer to use Transform Dynamic to do this. We make a box around our text, hit End Selection, and from here we'll snap our gnomon to this little box or ball in the center right here. Left click, and that's where we've anchored our translate point to. Now we click the gnomon again right here. You can see it turns yellow. Click that, and now we can move it around. So there's two different ways to do this. More than two really, but two that we'll talk about today. I'll show you both. So from auto cursor, if we wanted to, we could click the drop down, hit midpoint 2 points. Now our first point, we can select the upper left corner. Second point, we can select the lower right corner, and that will snap our text to the midpoint of that imaginary line that we just created. That's one way to do it. Another way, we'll just escape out of there. Again, Transform Dynamic, select our text, End Selection, repeat the same steps, grab our gnomon. Now we're here again. So another way to do this, we can just hover for just a few seconds over the point we want here. When we move away, you'll see a little green plus sign right there. Now we come down to this lower right-hand corner, hover again for just a few seconds, and now you can see in the middle of our screen we have a little red plus sign. So that is our temporary midpoint. So now we can go and we can snap right to that. Now we have our text moved. That's the way I prefer to do it. I think it's a little bit cleaner and less clicking. Then from there we click OK again. So now our text is where we want it. So now we have our geometry that we can begin engraving. So we don't have a machine selected yet. So from our machine tab, we'll go to Mill, select Default. So it doesn't really matter for now. We want to do a contour. So we pick contour. For this much geometry, I think the simplest way to grab all this for the engraving is by selecting the window option. So we'll select window. We put a window around our text. Now it's going to ask us for an approximate start point. For what we're doing, it doesn't really matter, so we'll just select the end point down here, and it automatically chains everything that was inside that window. So it's a very quick, easy way to chain a bunch of geometry when you don't really care so much about the order or the direction. Click OK. Now we have our toolpath dialog box. So we'll pick a tool. I'll go to my tool library, to my filter, and we can either select none. If all were selected, we can find the one we want, which is our engraving tool. Double click it. We'll just pick an 1/8 inch engraving tool. Say OK. We'll select the default feeds and speeds for what we're doing. Doesn't really matter. I prefer to always put in a comment. This helps when you have a lot of operations where you can go back and hover over your operation, see what that operation is doing based on the tool comment. I also like it when I go to prove this out at my CNC machine. The comment is right there in the first line of that section of toolpath code, so I can see what's coming next in my NC code and get ready for proving that section out. So for a comment, we'll just add engrave text. Okay. Tool holder, 3-axis mill, not really a big deal. We'll just select the tool holder. Cut parameters. So for cut parameters, when engraving things, I prefer to turn it to off. That way we're driving the center of the tool directly down the center of our geometry. Depth cuts we don't need. Lead in, lead out, I also want to turn off because I want to just start at a point and end at a point. I don't want any lead in. Breakthrough multi-passes, we don't need any of that. Linking parameters, we'll just select the depth of -10 thousandths. We will turn our coolant on. And that's all. So you can see from an ISO view, if you right click isometric, all of our retracts are above the 0 point or 0 plane, so we should be good there. We can do a quick back plot, play through. Looks like we've got exactly what we want. If we want to verify a little closer, we can expand our properties over here on the left hand side, go to stock setup. This looks a little bit different in 2023 than you might be used to seeing in some older versions of Mastercam. Go right here to bounding box. And the easy way to do this in this particular situation is all shown because we want to put a bounding box around all of our geometry. So that's very simple. We need to select where we want to anchor it to. So we're going to pick top center and then our thickness of our stock, 1 inch. So it's a +1 because we're already selecting the top. It's just going in the Z- direction. So it's just a positive value that we put in there. Then we can say, okay. So now we have our stock. We can say, okay. One thing what I want to do before I actually go in and verify this thing, I want to turn off all this geometry so it's not obstructing my view when I go to verify it. So I need to put that on another level. So I'll just left click and put a box around this stock. Now I can right click, go to change level. And I will just move this geometry to another level, call it level number 2. So now we go to our level tab. All the text is on level 2. I can easily turn that off. The reason you're still seeing it in blue is because we have our toolpath active. We can turn that off. So now, if we go right here to verify selected operations, left click, it opens a new window for us. This is our stock and our tool. So we can push play. And that is our engraving toolpath. If you want to remove your tool, check it here to make it translucent, check it one more time to make it go away. And now we have created an engraving toolpath inside of Mastercam. We want to turn our level back on, go right back where we started. And that's how you engrave something in Mastercam.